Hello everybody, Andy Shrimpton from GAA Technologies. I've just got my workshop almost complete and I thought I'd do a quick video on the CamVac. There's lots of talk on the CamVac saying that they're very good systems. I'm quite happy with mine so far, but people are saying about the noise. So I thought I'd show you my system, my plumbing, my Cyclone that I've built here, and just give you a bit more details, and we'll take some noise readings. Anyway, let's go. Okay, here we have my CamVac, and I'm just going to show you the plumbing system. So from my CNC routing table, all the dust is extracted up here, and I can do a bit more on the dust shoe that I've made on another video. So the suction's coming up this main hose, and into the Cyclone. It goes around the Cyclone, which we will cover shortly. Then the main suction goes back into the CamVac up here, and I've selected to use a clear hose in here. Firstly, it was slightly cheaper off eBay, and secondly, I can monitor the amount of debris and dust which is leaving the Cyclone going into the CamVac. Obviously CamVac recommend that the filters are cleaned every 20 hours, and I'm hoping that I can prolong this period, as I'm going to be trapping most of the debris in my Cyclone. The Cyclone is, as you can probably see, an old road cone which was bought off eBay, and it wasn't stolen off a roadside. Basically cut it down, made little gubbins in there which we'll cover in another video, and I'm quite happy. So from the CamVac, has I've got a 2-motor system, so I've got an extract port here, and there's a switch there and there to turn the motors on. Again, 2-motor system does allow you to run one motor at a time if that's giving you enough suction to get rid of your dust, and if you're doing a prolonged amount of cutting, it allows you to switch over motors to keep them cool. Other than that, if you're doing some really heavy cutting and you want some more vacuum, turn the motor on and it really does start pulling. Certainly not short of vacuum in this system. So just to go on some other hoses that you may see hanging around my workshop, these two hoses here, you notice, are joined together, and what these do, these go to outside. So if I'm cutting any say carbon fibre, I can choose to extract the recirculated air to outside, and that just goes to outside, approximately 2 meters away, into a normal vent flap system, so we can cover that later. And it also will help with the noise issue, and this is what the video is all about, the noise and performance of the CamVac. Also, I've got some other hoses across my workshop which you may see just here, and these just terminate down at about waist level, just here. One's terminating there and the other one's terminating here, and all they are for, they all to do about noise, and that's what we're going to cover now. So I'm going to reset the camera and I'll be back with you shortly. Okay, so here we are in my workshop. It's all pretty much quiet. There's not much background noise here. I've got a sound level meter and I've set it on slow and low setting, and it's actually measuring the dBc rating. Now, I'm no noise expert, but this gives you a comparison of what's going to be going on. So we're just going to take a reading of the workshop in the quiet state. So there you go, about 52 is the reading. Now I'm talking, you can see it shoots up. Now my CamVac is no more than 2 meters away, and I'm just going to go now and turn one of the motors on and come back and take another reading. Okay, you saw that's shot up to 79, and now I'm going to jump up and turn the other motor on and do a 2 motor reading. Okay, just took a level metering reading at the machine itself, and it went up to 85. So getting quite noisy, and if that was running all the time, it certainly would start making your ears ring. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to connect one of the baffle tubes. Oh, actually, I'll connect both the baffle tubes now as we've got the 2 motor set up on, and I'll show you what difference that makes. So we're down to 75 there, and although we still have a high decibel reading, the noise has the high-pitched squeal from the machine has stopped because I'm extracting the air elsewhere. So what we got here is 75. I take the hoses off. Okay, so the motor noise is much like a domestic vacuum cleaner at home. You really hear the motor working, and it's the main part of the noise is the air being extracted from the machine. And by using the baffle tubes, I'm directing the noise away from where I'm standing, so it just makes a softer noise to work with. I'm now going to turn one motor off and do it with one baffle tube. So there you go, we're back down to a reasonable level, and I could quite happily work in this shop all day. What I'm going to do now is going to connect one of the tubes to outside, and you'll hear it's a lot quieter. Okay, now I'm extracting the air directly to outside. And you can see, if I'm quiet for a second, we're just below the 70 level, and now the noise that I'm hearing is a very soft kind of noise, and it's not harsh on the ears. I'll just move the camera in a little bit closer to see if you can to hear. While we're here, I'll take the duct off. Okay, one thing that is important to remember when you're extracting, especially to outside, is obviously you've got to be putting the air in for somewhere else. So you must make sure that you've got no boilers or any other gas generating products which are you're going to start trying to suck products of combustion in from somewhere else, maybe under your garage door or through a workshop door, and bringing it into your working space, that is going to cause some serious health problems. So always check, if you're extracting the air to outside, where is the fresh air going to seep into your workshop from? And if you're like me, it's going to probably be just under the garage door. My garage door is not airtight, so for me, I haven't got a problem with any other boilers in the vicinity. The other reason for extracting the air outside is if it's a particularly hot day and you're hot in your shop, if you extract to outside, then you're going to get some air movement through your shop. Having said that, if you're working on a cold winter's day, I'd recommend you try and recirculate the filtered air, because it's down to 0.5 of a micron, which is very good from the CamVac system, because that way you're going to keep your workshop warmer. Again, if you've got a heater in your workshop, I use like a butane gas heater. I wouldn't want to be using that too much if I wasn't extracting the air, because they do build up fumes in your workshop. If you're using electric, that's going to be no problem, because you've got no products of combustion coming into your workshop. Okay, this is my little toy. I imported it from China, and I'm actually quite happy with it, although I've had to do some work on it, which I actually expected. One really bad thing on electrics, there was no earth cabling on the machine, so I had to install some earth cables. I also have re-piped the plumbing into the front here, because the table has two zones, and the handles were around this side, which I felt was going to be inconvenient, but it's actually turned out quite well by changing the position. Here's my table. It's a 900 by 800 cut-in size. I've got the bellow sleeves off at the moment because I want to put in a couple more limit switches, and that's why they're off, although I have been using my table with them off, and not much dust seems to get caught in there. The first thing I actually really made was my dust chute here. I'm actually quite pleased with it. I'll just give you a little close-up. Comes in two parts. The main part here is fixed onto the spindle by using this clamp method here. So if you, obviously with a router, you can make things quite nicely. So you cut this hole so it fits nicely on the router, and this bolt is only just crimped up just a little bit just to stop it moving. So that's on the router, and then you make a hole and you connect your extract port. And the way I've connected the underside, and I've got I think there's 75mm brushes on the outside and 25mm brushes on the inside. If I just lay it down and fold them back, you can just see the other layer of brushes just in front of my thumb here. The reason I did that, I was concerned that the vacuum may want to suck the brushes in like this, so by adding an inside row of bristles, it just gives it a bit more support on the outside to stop the brushes coming in. The way it's connected on is by using rare earth magnets, and I'm using 3 at the moment, although I have got facility to make 4. Here's the one that's missing, and the way they're set up is these magnets here are slightly protruding from the polycarbonate, and these magnets here, 1, 2 and 1 at the back, 3, are recessed, so when I slip the bottom chute on and up, it wants to centralize itself because the magnets slot in their little holes. And if I just put the camera down, it is very easy to get on and off. I can use it one-handed. It hasn't fallen off in operation. I only used 3 magnets at the beginning because I was concerned they were actually quite strong, so I thought I'd leave one off, but I can actually put the 4th one on, and it'll work quite well. Okay, so this is my my Cyclone. Obviously there's a lot of information on the internet that you can read. But really you just need to have a look around and then have a go and just modify it to suit needs really. So what happens here is the debris is going to come down this slot here. It hits then the plastic bowl here, so the debris gets diverted away to the outside of the dustbin where it's going to collect and fall down to the bottom. Then the actual vacuum is being sucked up here and up to the top. The way that the gadget is actually working, the dust is coming in this tube, and when this tube goes into the top of the cone, at the bottom here, which you can't see, is a 45-degree bend pointing in one direction. So what you're trying to make happen is as the fresh air is being extracted through this hole, which is from the centre of the pudding basin, you're trying to make the contaminated air, if we call it that, swirling around the cone, and it should be increasing speed as it gets to the narrower point, and then as it hits the plastic bowl it's trying to spin around the outside of the dustbin, and hopefully most of it drops to the bottom, which it actually does. Some of the fine dust does get through, but that's what you're expecting. I've tried it with tissue paper when I'm vacuuming off the workshop floor. You know, it does suck up anything there, and most of the debris is ending up in the dustbin. And then the dustbin's obviously relatively easy to empty, and there's a lot more capacity in the dustbin. So here we are standing at the table, and we're just going to take a sound level reading in the quiet workshop. So 38 is what I'm recording now. Now I'm just going to turn one motor on with a baffle tube connected, and the baffle tube is pointing away from where I'm standing. So here we are, and the baffle tubes is this black one here, and it's just actually pointing it into the corner of my workshop. So I'm just going to start one motor. And that's under 75, so it's actually really comfortable to work in. There's no harsh noise, it's not ear piercing, it just sounds like air rushing out of a pipe. In actual fact, that's what it is. Okay, some of you may have been wondering what's in the wooden box under my my dustbin here. Well, it's actually my vacuum pump. I say that in a loose phrase because it's actually a water pump which is driven by an electric motor, and the way it's configured, it actually produces some very good vacuum. The Chinese have been very clever in the way they've done this. So I'm just going to give you a shot of my setup. Okay, so we've got I believe it's a 3 horsepower motor, but I can check that. Then the two shafts are joined by a special coupling which is designed to join two shafts together. And then the blue section here is the water pump, and basically what's happening is water is fed into the bottom of the pump here through a 1/2 inch tapping, a 1/2 inch BSP, and then inside this housing, and that housing, well, it's as wide as my fingers, is a cast iron paddle wheel. And what that does is obviously it's throwing the water around, and I've got 2 ports that come off the top of the housing, which you can't quite see, and one is going to the table, and the other one is pushing the water back. So you might just see this is the hose going to the table, and the other hose is coming back off here, wheels up there, and it's returning to the water tank. So I've got a reservoir of water up there on the top of the shop. The water comes down through a valve which I turn off at night just in case I have any leaks. So that's going into the water pump. The water then flies through the water pump and then gets pumped back up this tube into the reservoir and back again. And the other hose, which goes to the table, it comes up, and this one here, and then down, then it goes under the table and then connects onto my plenum chamber, where I can control whether I've got one half or a full table under vacuum. Now the reason I've put the hose, which is containing the vacuum, so high up, is there is no possibility, because it's a water operated system, there's no way that I can flood my table, because my reservoir is, well, I'm 6 foot, and it's just about eye height with me. So there, that's eye height for me, and the water in it is about yay much, so to maybe 10 inches from the bottom, from the top. So I definitely didn't want water to get into my table. Now I'm just going to turn the pump on, and we'll see what we get. So I'm just going to put the camera down and turn the pump on. Just going to noise reading in the quiet shop that was. I'm just going to turn the pump on. Just takes a few seconds to get started, but now she's pumping quite well. We're just going to take another noise reading. The noise down by the pump itself. And if I just stand the cover back on, that's quite a comfortable noise for me. Now I'm just going to turn the vacuum on as well, which we got the Baffle tubes on, so there's one motor running on the CamVac. So there we have it, one motor running on the CamVac and the vacuum pump running. Around 76. Going to turn the second motor on now on the CamVac. So about 80, that's 2 motors running with the vacuum pump. The CamVac running 2 motors with the Baffle tubes, and now I'm going to take both Baffle tubes off the CamVac. So now we're running the vacuum pump and extracting from the CamVac straight into the workshop, and it's actually quite noisy because the noise is quite harsh to the ears. There we are, nice and quiet again. Turn one motor off. And now we're extracting to outside, where it's actually quite quiet. There we have it. So that's a quick introduction into my system. Any questions, you can email me if I can set up that link. I've only ever posted 2 videos on YouTube, and perhaps in my next video I'll tell you what all this is all about. This is a project I'm actually working on at the moment, and for those of you who are into helicopters, you may recognise exactly what it is, but more of that later.